Welcome back to Channel Zero X. This is Michael Landon, co-creator of Mortal Worlds with Caroline Landon. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Hey guys, I hope you're all doing good.
Now we're doing this video as a follow-up to the last one. Please check it out. We are discussing what influences Mortal Worlds what has influenced Mortal Worlds rather, because there is a lot of things that have
Well, there are things influencing it now, but that's a whole different video.
Yeah, so just as there are fictional worlds that have influenced it, there is also developments in science. Not so much socially,
Yeah, but we
because
did
this
that
isn't a
last
socially. Yeah, so we're not going to talk so much about that, but we are talking about how these things, these tropes as well of science fiction, have found their way into this work, which is perhaps in a new, slightly new way, a new twist. So we do have such things as portals, hyperspace. We call it storm space in this scenario. The technology, the energy source, if you like, that powers both the beings and their ships and such. We call it the charge, and it is something that has always been an interest of mine. The idea, not so much of infinite energy, or because I understand, laws of thermodynamics and such, that this stuff isn't really possible in the real world. But it doesn't stop you wondering if there was a world where such things were possible, and how it would look. That said, of course, there are certain things that.
But it is possible in this world. It's just that we haven't found a way. Because
Well,
anything has to be possible in any world, theoretically.
Well, people do talk about things like going to subspace, or being able to shortcut through the universe, so you're not breaking any laws really. But we're a long way from that, I imagine. Though they have made some steps into teleportation, of course, of subatomic particles and stuff. So it's possible many generations time that this stuff will have been
Yeah,
built
but
on.
that's another conversation.
But what we would like to talk about in this case is that there are, certain ideas which have been explored, quite widely, but we are doing it in what I feel is a new way, such as
Entertaining way.
such as the idea of portals which people can jump through into different locations and stuff like that.
Well,
And
that's already out there.
military applications for that. So it's been done many times. It's a real favorite, if you like. It wouldn't be done so many times if people didn't enjoy the idea. But of course, how do you depict it in a way that keeps it fresh, or gives it more potential? And one of the big things that I'm interested in conveying in Mortal Worlds, which I think we've managed quite well, is suspense and a sense of excitement, but also danger. And we want these characters to find resolution in many ways, but you can't have it perfect. Obviously, this isn't just a kind of wish fulfillment fairy tale. There are dramatic goings
Well,
on.
in the first book, all the faces seem to be in a state of agog expectation, don't they? Or extreme emotion.
Yeah. This is something that I guess I've recently learned how to do with characters. This kind of like almost the 1,000-yard stare. So right quite early on in the book, there are events going on which are so out of their experience that there's nothing they could almost do except kind of stand and stunned. Not so much silence, but there's a stunned expression on their faces. They're trying to wrap their heads around.
Which you have to
how do
convey
they,
before.
yeah.
all the
How are we going to
rest
deal with
unfolds.
this? Yeah.
But that's only the beginning. I mean, remember, people have only seen a bit of a snapshot of
Yeah.
the beginning.
So again, one of the things that about this power that the Slayers have, and also their kind of hostile equivalents, although to a lesser extent, is when they use this power, it drains them of their own life force quite quickly. So the more kind of you use it to score a physical advantage, the more you're going to pay for it in terms of how it affects your.
Yeah, your DNA degrades and you just age more.
They don't really age so much. It's just that they
Burn out.
they will burn out quite quick. And
It's better to burn out than fade away. Do you remember that Highlander film?
yeah, that's something that I remember Zach's quite into at the moment. He's kind of just newly discovered it.
Oh, what, Highlander?
Yeah, the Highlander. He's watching the TV show, and he's watched
I've
the
never watched the
movies and
TV.
stuff.
The movies. I like
Yeah.
the first movie the best.
So I guess these characters, they're not immortal. They're definitely mortal. The term Mortal Worlds, if it applies to anything in terms of a story way, it's that these characters are made very aware of their own mortality in such a way that more than even an average person, even a average combat soldier, they are forced into expending themselves at really high rates because they're encountering a being who seems to be almost nigh invincible in its forces. They've got to be able to meet them head on, and of course this is the ultimate sacrifice for them, because to defend their world, they are literally draining themselves, compromising themselves every step of the way. No matter what kind of little gain they make, how many steps they make, the enemy seems to kind of score the advantage that the enemy is close to cutting themselves off from resupplying, being able to survive. They can't be kind of repaired.
Edwin Boyette, I remember we were listening to that show, and he kind of laughed when he said a weaponized mountain, but it's super gamer as well, I think.
Well, the mountain is kind of weaponized because it's comprised of many kind of tiers. It's got its main cannon, which is like at the summit. It's like the crest of it, which is directly controlled by this Rhizar being, who you don't get to see until right towards the end of the story. But it's got all of its many combatants, brigades lined up on every kind of terrace, and they man these mortars, these all kinds of artillery outposts.
Not too much story.
That's not really much of a story. That's just really a literary description of the mountain. Anyone, it's free to see. Anyone could look at it and pretty much make out what it's there for. But it's meant to be obviously impregnable. But you'd I guess have no story if there wasn't some way in. But it's how they get in, which I think is a pretty exciting, and it's always in question. Who's going to make it and how, and what's going to cost them. And what the hell are they going to encounter once they're in there? Because it's
a story that once you get sucked in. There's some books you just turn the page.
I hope that almost every step of the way it's going to be bringing up more kind of questions you want answering. As soon as possible.
I'd just like to say, like some books that the way I read, I just turn the pages until I'm finished. Other books, like I've mentioned it before in previous videos, I know Jerusalem, you have to mull and dwell and over everything, and I think the artwork's a bit like that, particularly some of the Rhizar images.
I don't think that the first go round, hopefully people will be mulling and dwelling so much. I think that
I think they'll be. That's why I say fast paging, but hopefully going back, and dwelling if they have another. It's like Twin Peaks fans. I'm a Twin Peaks fan. That the more they watch it, the more they get out of it. It's that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'm hoping that just like it is for me. And it's something that you want to come back to again and again, but it's grabbing people that first go around. You can't build it up to be too esoteric. There's got to be a straightforward through line.
Oh no, I think that the people should see a flavour of it when they look at the campaign page.
Yeah, everyone can get a pretty clear flavour of it, but I definitely think that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, which is the main kind of way that people will find their way through. It's what's going to pull them through really fast, especially the first go around. If they want to return to it, then they can take side routes and stuff and stop to reflect on, maybe there's certain images and, symbols there, which can be, you can glean a bit more about what I'm intending in each panel. But overall, I definitely think it's the most straightforward story I've written, because it's meant to be. It's just an action film.
Do you know, as an aside, we must talk in videos about other things, the other concepts and pipelines that we've got.
Yeah, we've
just
got other ideas. Yeah, we've got other ideas as well.
But we'll do that in another video.
Yeah, we've got some pretty cool titles coming up as well along the way, and hopefully those will see fruition sooner rather than later. But they have a few things in common in Mortal Worlds, but what this story has, I suppose, that's particularly special to itself is this enemy, which is quite a Lovecraftian kind of entity. This is what we were intended to get into with this video, because Lovecraft has over the last 20 years or so become a quite big point of interest for us. He was an amazing. He was an amazing world creator, and he managed to create these new feelings, I suppose, in the reader, which few people have perhaps ever really attempted. And it may, of course, a lot of people point out that he had kind of personal failings in terms of his apparent there's apparent misogyny and racism there in his work, which makes a lot of people think that no matter how good the rest of the material might be, it's offset by the fact that it would seem that he was a very suspect as a character.
There.
but he certainly, but later on he certainly got off that track, and he certainly became he renounced any kind of stuff like that, and he was very
Well, I
much a man
suppose that
of
shows that anyone
progress.
can develop, though.
Yeah.
There is development potential in all human beings.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah, he
psychologist,
was.
I know that.
He was an avid learner, I think, and he was never, I think, kind of stuck in one kind of like mindset.
Well, it's
He
just
was
as well.
always
It shows
interested
that there
in,
is the ability
exploring.
to transcend and go beyond racism and misogyny and all those awful.
Yeah, I think he was all about transcending the limits of the mind, and I think that even though he believed that ultimately,
As was David Lynch, who we referred to in the previous video.
yeah, but I think Lovecraft was still of the opinion that no matter how far we ever got, we would be completely dwarfed by what else was out there just beyond the range of vision and in the deepest depths of the cosmos.
But even those cryptid videos we listen to, we know that that's a possibility, particularly that blue.
With the normal society, let's say kind of normal straight society, will never concede any ground on that. They will rather say that everything's a part of the natural world and can be described, contained, and observed, manipulated by man.
Even defending a position that becomes manifestly untenable because there's evidence out there to contradict it, that's just a stupid waste of energy.
But no, that's not how science works. Science is
no, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying people who continue to defend a position knowing there's incontrovertible and increasing evidence out there that contradicts it.
People do it with facts as their base. They do it as, they don't just do it, not everybody just says, oh, it's because science now says. They will know that just about everything that is accepted as normal and natural, there's a fact basis for it, factual basis. But I don't think not everybody necessarily looks too deeply into that. Not everybody is fascinated, in natural sciences or anything like that.
Ain't natural. Sorry, that's a game.
But I definitely think that most people they've got a fairly okay understanding of what's possible and what isn't possible. Including things like cryptid creatures, UFO phenomena, these supernatural occurrences. People will say there's a whole manner of explanations, even if these people do genuinely believe their experiences, what they saw, they're kind of hallucinations or tricks of the mind that can be played, and all sorts. Priming plays a big part in that.
Sorry, I took you off track there.
No, I think that with Lovecraft, though, he had created this pantheon of beings who some people may say kind of were too much of a contrast to the ideas he was trying to generate, that he was going kind of too off-piste. He could have been explaining stuff in a more kind of generalized way, and instead he went all for the tentacles and the slimy monsters and all that kind of stuff. But
what's the point?
But I think that actually he took it where all these things were implied, because I think that all these beings, they represent the darkest part of the unconscious. Like when you have a dream and it's really quite, eerie or frightening, you'll notice that there's a lot of this kind of...
Do you mean that Johari window 4 thing where it's something you don't even know about yourself?
I'm thinking more about like Freudian, analysis, where things that are generally taboo in modern society, things that, sticky or smelly or slimy or all these things, like some beings, some creatures, like like that, like in the sea, all that kind of stuff, about squid and octopuses.
I can't even think about eating squid. God,
Yeah.
the slime of it.
Yeah, they're not slimy, obviously. You don't get
No,
that
but they're
when
rubbery. I tasted it once. It's awful.
Well, yeah, people eat all kinds of stuff, I suppose, that may put off people who've never tried it or unfamiliar with it. But yeah, there's something about certain kinds of creatures, and and obviously perhaps they remind people themselves of bodily functions and stuff like that. So
I think that's enough of the bodily functions.
Where
are we going with the point? Dude, we're not doing the bodily functions in a video.
Yeah, I wasn't really going to go into bodily functions. I'm simply saying that there's a part of the mind which is it's like in its own container. So it's like, you might consider it to be like a kind of a basement or a vault or something, and it's where all the stuff is kept at bay, which to keep humanity sane.
I guess you're saying that Rhizar exploits that.
No, I don't think Rhizar really. I don't think he exploits it, because it is it, if you like. It's like this wolf at the door. It's the being in the vault. Imagine like all of that is represented by this one kind of entity.
But it's the fact that it can use that fear of those things.
Yeah, well, in a sense, it is the fear of all those things. So when you come into closer proximity to it, all those things become more real to you. It not just done a kind of like metaphorical sense, but in a quite real, palpable, emotional sense. So you're kind of like you not so much just fighting a villain, or an enemy, a combatant as well. You're fighting yourself more and more every step of the way. So that's how it's gaining ground on you. It's gaining on you all the time because you're ever more second guessing yourself, even with every step you get. So
I am
you will
your
have
father.
yeah. So you will encounter kind of not so much doppelgangers of yourself, but your occurrences where you realize your life was always leading you up to, because you always had this fear, and now you're kind of like it's right there in front of you. It's like the Risa is the manifestation of these things. And when you encounter these things, you are in your kind of your most vulnerable state in a way,
It's the
because
manifestation of your darkest fears, but it makes them real.
yeah, it makes them real to you, and it forces you to have to deal with them if you want to gain more ground, and it gets more difficult,
Or
with
lose
each
your
stage.
soul.
Or lose your soul, because what it really wants in the end is for you to give up your right to a soul, and just say, I pledge myself to you. I pledge it to you. Anything but letting me have to face more of this, and of course, if Risa were to gain all of this ultimate power, you might say that all of the darkness, which is in the human mind as much as anything else in the unconscious, it would be the dominant force in the universe, and everything we've worked so hard to do to create a world that is accommodating to all beings, and all the different kind of alien worlds as well, which mortal worlds inhabits. All of these worlds are very kind of they're blaming this one planet, Aldar, for being responsible for releasing Risa. So it's almost like
Yeah, but
Aldar's off limits, but in the end, these other worlds do come to the assistance.
well, yeah, that's quite a bit to give people about, I think, mortal world, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah, hope you've enjoyed this last part about mortal worlds and its influences. There's more that you can listen to in the previous chapter, where
I
we
thought you were going to say the prequels there. I don't know why.
but we are going to be doing more of these videos, but we're also going to be talking more about things in popular culture. We'll be doing more videos about Star Wars and all sorts. So do keep up with our channel. We will be presenting a lot. I think you're going to get a lot out of very soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you very soon.
Okay, take care, guys. Look after yourselves. See you soon.
And do remember to check out the Mortal Worlds on Indiegogo, funding now. It's going to be a real treat. Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.